This is the third video in a series that shows how to make D3 installation on Linux easier by bypassing D3 Setup's configuration menu. In this video, we'll cover using the Linux fdisk utility to create raw partitions. Later, we'll cover how to set up disk partitions for D3 using other methods and how to manually load D3 dependencies. This is how you create a D3 usable raw partition using the Unix fdisk utility. Note that this requires that there is an unpartitioned raw disk on the system already. If not, you need to add some. Once it's there, use fdisk-l to find it. In this example, we'll be using some unpartitioned space on dev SDA, though you could have SDB, SDC, or whatever you added. Please notice the fdisk example on the slide. There's nothing here explicitly saying you have X amount of unpartitioned space, so you'll either need to take it on faith or do some math. If your display has a blocks column, you should be able to sum that column and multiply by 2 to get the number of sectors, then subtract that from the sectors of display on the first line, then divide the difference by 2 to get the number of free blocks. Or you could just ignore that and tell fdisk to give you whatever free space is remaining on the disk. Let's do that now with dev SDA. At the command prompt, enter N for a new partition. As you can see below, there is only one primary partition left. We'll use that one since we only need one. If we needed more than one partition, each of which using part of the available space, we'd need to set up extended partitions. But for this example, that's not necessary. Enter a P and use the last partition. If there were more than one available, you'd be prompted for the partition number, the default being the first available. You are now being prompted for the size of the new partition. You can specify a number of blocks or number of kilobytes, megabytes, or gigabytes by appending a K, M, or G to your selection. To take it all, just hit Enter. Now it's time to set the partition type. What we normally recommend is that you set it to D3 so that Linux has no idea what type of partition it is and therefore does not try to manage it for you. Enter T at command and D3 at the hex code prompt. The results are shown here in the example. Now enter W at command to write out the partition table. If you get the warning shown, which you will on version 7 and early Linux versions, reboot the Linux server. Once the server is rebooted, connect back in and do an fdisk-l/dev/sda to verify successful addition of the D3 partition as shown in the example. In the next video, we'll cover raw disk partition creation using the Linux parted utility. If you have any questions about any of the content we've covered so far, please contact Rocket D3 support.